Good morning. I'm Mohit Joshi, President at Infosys, and it's my privilege to have with me today Jacqueline De Rojas CBE. Jacqueline is the President of techUK. She's also the co-chair of the Institute of Coding and is a non-executive director on several FTSE boards, including Rightmove. Jacqueline, thank you so much for your time, and it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Mohit. I'm delighted to join you here today.
So, Jacqueline, let me just start off by asking you about your career. You've obviously had a very successful career and you've motivated a ton of people to join the tech business. But from what I understand, a little bird told me that you had initially planned your career to be a newscaster at the BBC. What changed and what do you think has led to your immense success in your now chosen field of tech?
Well, thanks. That's a really interesting place to start, isn't it? I think I got into um, technology because when I finished my degree in Germany in European business, actually, I came back to London and frankly, I needed to pay the bills. Someone offered me a job in recruitment, technology recruitment, and I took it. But actually, my aspiration was always to be a newscaster on the BBC, to declare something significant on the news at 10 or something like that. So I suppose it's come full circle because whilst I've been in technology all my career, actually, I have ended up during the pandemic presenting mostly via video platforming, streaming this way. So I guess my presenting ambitions have been fulfilled because of coronavirus, and that's the irony. I have to say though, I have spent 30 years or more as a troubleshooter in tech, building businesses, accelerating growth in companies like Computer Associates, Business Objects, Citrix, McAfee. Had a very long career building teams that can operate under pressure and building teams who understand the impact of technology and how it can make a difference to people's lives.
That's a wonderful observation, Jacqueline, and it's such a fascinating start to your career. Clearly, communication, problem solving, and leadership are so integral to so many different careers, including for you in technology. But let me just pivot now to AI. And clearly, over the past decade or so, we've seen an explosion in consumer AI. But at Infosys, we believe the opportunity is now ripe for widespread adoption of AI in the enterprise space as well. We see cloud data analytics coming together to really transform the enterprise space. I would really love to hear your observations on this generally, and then specifically for the opportunity that you see for UK companies to capitalize on this.
Yeah, it's a great question. And we have seen that there is a clear appetite and demand for AI technology in the UK, certainly over the past few years and specifically the past few months. We've seen a massive increase in adoption of technology across all sectors, but particularly in fintech and health, I would say, because, when I look at Google's DeepMind, for example, they're using AI algorithms and computing power to understand the proteins that might make up the virus and publish their findings so that they can help others develop treatments, which is a really big boost to AI and cloud and data all working together. Also, another example, Benevolent AI, another company uses AI systems to build drugs that might fight the world's toughest diseases and is now helping under COVID-19 situations. So, the increasing convergence of AI with other tech has definitely opened up new opportunities. And we've only really scratched the surface. We will see it writ large in autonomous vehicles, probably surgical robots as well. And moving forward, as part of the UK's economic recovery, it is important that AI technology is available to all sectors and regions and companies regardless of size. We can't just solve for the large companies, so we must support SMEs and first-time adopters to understand how AI can help their businesses to maximize their productivity and scale. And perhaps finally, another component to unlocking the possibilities of AI comes back to the availability of good quality data sets. The UK has to lead the way in driving effective data sharing between both public and private sector service providers so that we can accelerate our ability to develop and deploy AI solutions that work for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Jacqueline. I think that's a very valid observation, especially about the need to have SMEs as well participate in the AI revolution. But you mentioned DeepMind, a great UK-based company that is now obviously part of Google. Do you think that the government is doing enough, both from supporting companies that are developing the technology that goes into AI, and equally helping AI expand from an end user perspective? And this is important because in so many countries, right, in the US and in China, you're seeing such a significant role for the state to play in the diffusion of this technology.
Yeah, it is. It's really interesting, isn't it? There have been a lot of initiatives taking place across government to help us better understand and also support AI adoption across the country. For example, during the summer, the government published guidelines for AI procurement to help address specific challenges of acquiring AI in government. And in addition, the UK Government Centre for Data Ethics, thank goodness there is one, for Data Ethics and Innovation, published its AI barometer, highlighting the most pressing opportunities and risks associated with AI and data use in the UK. And this year, as part of the UK's adapt and respond phase to COVID-19, we've seen AI being used in new ways, such as using it to manage the risk of viral transmission in retail spaces, just as an example. And that has helped consumers, for example, to be impacted by queue control inside shops. So, I think they've done a lot. However, great initiatives they are, there's still more to be done. Technology moves at pace, as you know, better than I. And we need to make the UK AI ready. And I probably see the main barriers to experiencing AI in all its glory is a lack of understanding and knowledge about how AI can support small business and large business. So does the board understand it, for example? Does it invest properly? The difficulty in getting senior management buy-in to new things, to change, and therefore a lack of investment in the right tech. And maybe then perhaps the third one is low quality data and the availability of good data sets, because it's often driven by legacy systems, which we both know is perhaps the biggest challenge in driving AI acceptance. And the power of algorithms as we move forward has to be driven on clean data. And that's probably the one that's most hidden, but is most important, I think, in driving adoption.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I think, look, the government and boards across the UK, I think, are very fortunate in having techUK and you being able to advise them on how this revolutionary new technology can be adopted, both for large-scale government adoption and then obviously within companies themselves. You spoke about the topic of data. Me to what has possibly been the most controversial issue about AI, which is the absence of explainability, because it is a little bit of a black box, an algorithm. And the second piece has been about the issue about diversity and bias. And you've been such a champion within Tech UK and through your own career for the importance of diversity in technology and the importance of diversity of talent across the multiple companies that you'd referred. How do we build a more diverse workforce for technology in the UK? What is your advice to companies, to individuals, and to educational institutions that we can really cover this talent gap?
Yeah, well, I mean, firstly, I should say in tech in general, there's 1.2 million K currently unfilled. So we have to make sure we fill the skills gap. But on the specific question of AI and explainability and creating a world that works for everyone, if an algorithm is now going to decide whether you get that job interview, that place at university, that mortgage, that loan, we had better make sure that the people who are building those algorithms, testing those algorithms, implementing those algorithms are diverse. Because if we don't, we are in danger of creating a world that doesn't work for everybody. So for me, I think diversity across the design team is hugely important, because they will ask the questions that will come from a different viewpoint. But for, I think it was Dame Wendy Hall, one of our big AI gurus in the UK, said, if it's not diverse, it's simply not ethical. And I love that, because it just makes so much sense. And what it also means is that it's not the government's problem to solve, it's not the state, it's not big business, it's all of us, that we need to play our part in making sure that we ask the question, where are the others in a meeting which is not diverse? Or, have you seen it from this point of view, or from a minority perspective? And that's what's going to keep us on the straight and narrow, of course. But aside from that, there's the big skills issue. And I think for the UK to remain at the forefront of ethical AI development and ethical application of AI, we have to create a really steady pipeline of tech talent. Build a diverse workforce is fundamental to that DNA. And there have been some really brilliant initiatives in recent years, not least last year, when certainly at techUK, we were delighted to welcome the announcement of 200 new industry-funded AI masters places at UK universities. And we were very delighted to see members such as Infosys demonstrating industry's commitment to developing homegrown talent and building that next generation of AI capability. That is so important. And alongside that, we welcomed the £10 million that the government dedicated to AI and data science conversion courses, because then we can pivot people quickly rather than waiting for years to get this talent into the talent pool. So it's something that's very close to my heart. I love the idea that this summer the government also announced 2,500 new places on AI and data science conversion courses, which is open to applicants with up to another £24 million of funding from government. So there is money there, but we also need to look at the other end, which is our team diverse? Are we creating diverse teams? Are the customers that we're facing into operating in diverse environments as well? Because that will also force us to create that thriving environment where ideas come from everybody. And let's face it, ideas are no respecter of hierarchy. And I really feel that diversity matters in creating that competitive advantage and driving AI home in large and small businesses.
Thank you, Jacqueline. That's a wonderful observation. I loved your quote about the fact that if it's not diverse, it's not ethical. But equally, the imperative that you mentioned, which is if you're not diverse, it's very hard for you to be competitive. Both very valid points. But staying on this issue of diversity, one of the challenges that we've seen is that in some ways AI is reinforcing existing, especially gender stereotypes, right? When you look at the variety of smart speakers or smart assistants available, the default voice setting is usually a female voice. Uh, is this, are we reading too much into these small issues, or do you think that they have they have the potential to reinforce, this submissive stereotype for women, which is unfortunately still common? How do we battle this? How do we, as tech companies, lead the charge in changing this very dangerous stereotyping?
It is dangerous stereotyping, and it's not just in tech, it's in the world we live in, and I think about examples when the seatbelt was invented, women and children died or were seriously injured because it was built by men of a certain weight and height, and it took over 30 years to change that. So we're already living in a bias, so biased that we can't see it. And I think we just have to have diverse teams creating those voice assistants, not naming them with female names. Alexa could have been Alex, couldn't it? And it could have been both. So and it, Alexa is, after all, our tech servant, and it's quite an interesting challenge that you pose. But for tech to work for everyone, those creating it must reflect the society that it serves. And I see the unconscious bias in our world. I was reminded of a story the other day where a doctor couldn't get into the locker room at the gym, and the techies were called in, the swipe card was changed a number of times, and it turned out that the job title doctor had been hard coded as a male job title, and that's why she couldn't get into the locker room. It is a small example of bias. However, imagine if an airline pilot had been hard coded as a male job title, and under pressure during a crisis, the female pilot couldn't override autopilot. That would have had serious consequences. So we have to be super careful. And that comes because people call it unconscious bias, actually, but I wonder whether it shouldn't be more about looking beyond our privilege. Because if you're white and male, can you see the path that's trodden by someone who's not white and male? It's a different path. You don't see the challenges. So maybe our action, our takeaway action, is to look beyond our privilege and see how other people's journeys can be lived differently. And that, I think, is where, you know, we might be able to challenge some of the bias that we've got inside our systems, especially the AI systems, that they can run away with themselves extremely fast. We've seen this on trading floors in the fintech world, and they've had to be arrested pretty fast. But I think it's probably, for me, it's about seeing beyond your privilege and detecting that bias, but then also creating diverse teams that are there to challenge it in order to create a world that works for everybody.
Thank you, Jacqueline. That is such a shocking and such a powerful example, the one you gave about the doctor being locked out of the system. And I guess what you're saying is really to to harness AI effectively, we paradoxically need to become a lot more human and a lot more mindful about where we are and how we see things. Walk a mile in the other person's shoes. That's really powerful feedback, especially because we think of AI as so technical and so technology driven. The human aspect really is paramount. But finally, if I could ask you to wear your futurist hat, and there is so much going on in the world, with the pandemic and the response to the pandemic, the global geopolitical situation. If you were to wear your futurist hat, where do you think we will be in AI from a 12 months out perspective, and especially from a from a UK perspective? What should we be doing to really harness the opportunities that this new world now provides for us?
Well, I think AI certainly has a key role to play as part of the UK's post-COVID-19 economic recovery. It's going to be a big year for us. We've seen rapid acceleration in digital transformation and adoption of pretty advanced digital technologies, due largely to the pandemic. And as part of the UK's government's levelling up agenda, we will have to see and identify the sectors that are most in need of AI solutions and provide guidance that's easy for organisations of all sizes to follow and adopt. I think that's where we will help to ensure the benefits of AI are felt right across the UK, across all sectors. Next year, a big opportunity to demonstrate how AI can be used to tackle the biggest opportunities we face today, because we've got COP26 in November relating to all things climate and global climate change. So that's a really big one where AI can be leveraged, that whole man-machine opportunity, 1 + 1 = 11, I like to call it. So we require strong, clear signals from the government promoting their offering and ambition to incentivise companies to the UK as a great place to grow and scale, because we've got the talent. We have double the investment of most European countries in technology here. We've got a great time zone, a great stable currency. And so there are so many reasons why this is a hotbed for coming to the UK to develop and grow and accelerate businesses. So I would like to see us as a nation put the D back into the UK's current R&D strategy to help convert and drive commercialisation of research, and also retain the IP here. That's also super important. And continuing to pioneer. We've always been innovators, pioneers, looking outwards, not inwards. And we innovate on behalf of those already in existence so that we can become that leading light and make sure that we deliver and implement AI for good. Perhaps that's what I see for next year. I also hope on the diversity front that people realise that this is their moment to engage, that the greatest threat to diversity is perhaps the belief that someone else will fix it. And in AI, it's super important that we don't leave it to someone else.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Thank you for a wonderful conversation. Your meaningful insights, your exposition of the challenges and the opportunities that we have in front of us. And I must say that I, for one, am a lot more optimistic and a lot more confident about UK technology, knowing that we have your leadership at techUK to help steer not just the discussion in the boardroom, but also that very vital interface with civil society and with the government. Thank you again for your time, Jacqueline.
Thank you for having me.